First Man is nominated in 4 categories, but not for Best Picture. First Man is a film directed by Damien Chazelle, whose last movie La La Land won him the Oscar for Best Director. It's a biopic of Neil Armstrong, the guy everybody knows is the first man ever to walk on the moon. This is my idea of a really good Sunday night movie. This is the kind of thing you go watch with your family, get some thrills, learn a little bit about history, but nothing too challenging. What I'm getting at is that it's a real crowd pleaser. I enjoyed the heck out of this movie on that level, but it's also just a really well crafted movie. If you're looking at technical stuff, the sound design is probably one of the first things you notice. It gives you a real sense for something that not a lot of space movies do, and that's that these amazing feats in history were done in pieces of machinery that, yeah, I'm sure they're top of the line, but they look like they were welded together in somebody's garage. They don't inspire the greatest confidence, is what I mean. The opening scene is Neil Armstrong flying this jet above the atmosphere, and the whole scene is filled with cutaway shots of bolts in metal just creaking under the pressure, and there's wings and rudders just shuddering. And when they get to the actual spacecraft scenes, things feel even more rickety than that. There's something about this attention to sound, but also the visual style of this movie that really highlights what kind of accomplishment the moon landing was for something that happened in the 60s. The style is very handheld, and you can see a lot of grain, which makes it feel sort of gritty and low budget and cheap. Sometimes things are too dark or they're just slightly out of focus, but that's actually perfect for this movie. When you're in a movie that feels as grounded and small scale as this, and then suddenly you find yourself launching into space and trying to dock with a satellite, looking for it through this tiny window in pitch black darkness, you gain a whole new perspective on how amazing it is that they accomplished this in the 60s. And the thing is, Damien Chazelle has already proven that he can do the high budget, beautiful, glossy thing. He knows enough to achieve that look. And he went completely the opposite way on purpose for this movie. It's intentional. That whole docking sequence is really cleverly done, actually. The camera stays inside the hull with them. The only time it ever cuts outside is when it's a camera that's attached to the ship and it's pointing only at the ship itself. You can't really see anything else. And so when they're sitting in the dark looking for that satellite through the tiny window in the pitch dark, you're there with them. You don't have anything that they don't have. So even though you're in space, you still have that cheap, grounded feeling. Besides that, there's a lot of moments that not only feel like improvised acting, but I'm convinced they had to be improvised, especially the scenes with the children. All in all, there's a lot of good directing here, with the actors, with everything. It's just kind of subtle. The movie tries to find an emotional core in Neil Armstrong's relationship to his daughter Karen and in his home life. And this stuff is definitely a lot weaker than the rest of the movie, but I think it still works, partly because Neil is a very closed-off, secluded kind of character, and also Ryan Gosling's performance, his portrayal of this guy, shows a guy with a lot going on internally that never really finds its way out. Like he struggles to communicate or something. Like he used to pick up. All in all, even taking the flaws into account, this is a really good crowd pleaser movie. Really glad to see it nominated for at least a few things, and I'm hoping to hear its name a few times come awards night.